Good morning to you all. Thank you for joining me again today, spending time with God and hearing from Him. Today will be a shorter devotional, but of course you see that we're starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I apologise for the quality of the picture and possibly the sound. The internet connection here today seems to be very up and down, so at some points it may pause and things like this, so I hope that this will keep working. I can see the fluctuation is quite large and at times it is dropping out, so we'll carry on regardless, right? So what I want to do is just quickly go over today's readings, which are Luke 12 and 13 and Acts chapter 17, and tomorrow is Luke 14 and 15 and Acts 18. Let me start with a prayer by Teresa of Lisieux. She was a 19th century Christian who wrote this prayer, and this prayer. My life is an instant, an hour which passes by. My life is a moment which I have no power to stay. You know, O my God, that to love you here on earth I have only today. This is remarkable for somebody to write a prayer. She died at 24, and her last words were, I love you, God. So that's quite something, isn't it? Right, so let's look at our passage for today. Get the video and then back to the thing again. So it's Luke 12, 1 through 7. Yes, fear him. Of course, that's the words of Jesus himself speaking. So let's have a look at what that has to say. Right, this subject is a difficult one, but please bear to the end of the message, otherwise you will miss out on the blessing. And we are given 3 reasons here to fear God rather than people. And the first one is that everything that we do will get exposed. All the secrets are going to come out. Nothing will be hid. Things done which no one else sees, things said between 2 people, all will be revealed because God is watching, and you and I are not going to get away with it. So that's the first reason to fear God. The second reason to fear God is, rather than people, is that the worst that anyone can do to you is kill you. Of course, there's no other crime more heinous than murder. The problem is that death is not the end, and God can still cast us into hell. And so let us not doubt the reality of hell. And remember that he's speaking to his disciples at this point. And Jesus spoke often of hell, and therefore we should take careful note. The word hell here in Luke 12 is the word Gehenna. And there are 3 words for hell, but Gehenna was a literal place on the outskirts of Jerusalem. When King Josiah became king, he was a short-lived good king, one of the best. And he cut down all the idols and all the gods and all the altars that the former kings and the people had set up. And he threw them into this deep hole and set fire to it. It was that same hole that King Ahaz and others had previously sacrificed their children to the god Molech. I often think about abortion in this way. I think that is a sacrifice to the god of convenience, on the whole. And Josiah, he killed all the priests of his gods and so on. You can read about him in 2 Kings chapters 22 and 23. And this is one of the verses there is this. Before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might. According to the Lord, did any like him arise after him? Wow, that is something to be said of, isn't it? Well, the point is that the fire which he burned all these idols was still burning in Jesus' day, over 600 years later. 600-year fire. And that's because it became the rubbish tip. And because of that, the fire never went out. It later became a symbol for eternal punishment because the smoke was still going up from it in Jesus' day. And so Jesus used it as an illustration. Fear God, because God can throw you or I on the rubbish tip. And that's with everlasting fire. People can only do so much, but God can inflict so much more. I'm always worried when people say, well, they're better off now that they've died. It depends. It depends where they're gone, doesn't it? Then the third reason to fear is brought to our attention. God knows about every sparrow. What's that to be something to be afraid of? Or about the hairs on our head are numbered. Well, God knows everything. He sees every little detail. God notices everything. So what are the three reasons again? Fear him because every secret will be exposed. Fear him because he can throw us into hell. And fear him because he knows everything. So at this moment, we're probably feeling a bit fearful. And I'm sure that his disciples were feeling the same way. But Jesus, he doesn't leave that there. Then he says, you do not need to be afraid. I care for sparrows, but I care for you so much more. I care for you. If you feared God, so much so that now that you follow Jesus, you need not fear anymore. But the key thing here, he cares for sparrows. Those things which they're sold for just 2 pence in the market, poor people could buy them for their own meat, you see. But he cares more about the sparrows, which he can see and cares about them. But he says, I care so much more for you. I want to close just this short devotion with one verse of that amazing hymn, Amazing Grace. And it has these words fear in it twice. And this is what it says. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Well, I hope that you will be able to join me tomorrow, and so when we come back to hear what God may be speaking with us about. Thank you for joining me. God bless.